Mike Vrabel just called Kevin Stefanski a gimmick coach to his face, and what happened next will blow your mind. But here's what nobody's talking about. This isn't just about one game. This is about a pattern that's been destroying Cleveland from the inside, and I've got the receipts that prove everything. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand why this single comment might have just ended Kevin Stefanski's career in Cleveland. You think you know what happened between the Patriots and Browns on October 26th? Think again. Because while everyone was focused on the final score, Mike Vrabel was setting up the most brutal coaching takedown in recent NFL history. And I'm about to show you exactly how he did it. Picture this. You're Kevin Stefanski, sitting in that post-game press conference, probably thinking you're about to give your usual coach speak answers. The reporters are asking their typical questions about execution, effort, and all the other buzzwords coaches love to throw around. Then, Vrabel drops this nuclear bomb. When their gimmick plays ran out, I thought we played pretty good defense. Gimmick plays. Let that sink in for a second. This isn't just trash talk. This is a veteran coach with Super Bowl rings calling out another coach's entire offensive philosophy. And here's the kicker. Vrabel said this knowing exactly what would happen next. He knew the cameras were rolling. He knew it would go viral. He knew it would expose something that Cleveland fans have been screaming about for months. But let me break down exactly what Vrabel saw that made him so confident in making this statement. See, when you've been around the NFL as long as Vrabel has, you develop an eye for what's real and what's smoke and mirrors. And what he saw from Cleveland's offense was pure smoke and mirrors. The Browns came out strong in that first quarter, I'll give them that. They executed their scripted plays perfectly, moved the ball effectively, and even scored a touchdown to take an early 7-3 lead. Dillon Gabriel looked composed. The offensive line was giving him time, and for about 15 minutes, Cleveland fans probably thought, maybe this time is different. But here's what Vrabel saw that most people missed. Those weren't real plays. Those were gimmicks. Carefully choreographed sequences that work great when the defense doesn't know what's coming, but crumble the moment a real defensive coordinator makes halftime adjustments. Think about it like this. Imagine you're playing chess against someone who's memorized the first 10 moves of a famous game. For those first 10 moves, they look like a grandmaster. Every move is perfect. Every decision seems brilliant. But the moment you force them off that script, the moment you make a move they haven't prepared for, they fall apart completely. That's exactly what happened to Cleveland's offense. The moment the Patriots figured out Stefanski's little bag of tricks, the Browns didn't just struggle body in, they completely disappeared. We're talking about a team that went from moving the ball at will to looking like they'd never played football before. And Vrabel knew this would happen. He's seen it before. He's coached against these types of systems. He knows that when you build your entire offensive philosophy around trick plays and gimmicks, you're essentially building a house of cards. It looks impressive from the outside, but one strong wind and the whole thing comes crashing down. But here's where this gets really interesting, and this is something that's going to make you question everything you thought you knew about this situation. While Dillon Gabriel was out there throwing interceptions and giving up safeties, there was another quarterback on that sideline, a quarterback who's been tearing up college football, a quarterback who has the arm talent, the football IQ, and the composure to actually execute when the script runs out. Shedeur Sanders. And Kevin Stefanski refuses to play him. But the reason why is going to shock you. Now, before you hit me with that he's injured nonsense, let me stop you right there. I've done my homework on this, and the evidence is overwhelming. Shedeur himself has made it crystal clear that he's healthy. He was warming up before the game. He was ready to go. The medical staff cleared him. His father, Deion Sanders, has been vocal about his son being ready to contribute. So what's the real reason he's riding the bench? And why is Kevin Stefanski so committed to Dillon Gabriel that he'd rather lose games than make a change? Here's what I think is really happening, and this is going to sound crazy, but stick with me because the evidence is all there. I think Kevin Stefanski is so committed to proving that his system works, that his gimmick offense can succeed, that he'd rather watch his team lose with Dillon Gabriel than win with Shedeur Sanders. But it goes deeper than that. See, Stefanski's entire reputation as an offensive coordinator and head coach is built on this idea that he's some kind of innovative genius. He's the guy who can take average quarterbacks and make them look good through scheme and play design. He's the mastermind who can outsmart defensive coordinators with his creativity and unpredictability. If he puts Shedeur in and Shedeur immediately starts making plays, reading defenses, and actually moving the offense when it matters, what does that say about Stefanski's quarterback evaluation? What does that say about his offensive system? What does that say about all those years of being praised as an offensive innovator? It says that maybe, just maybe, Mike Vrabel was right. Maybe Stefanski really is running gimmicks instead of a real NFL offense. And here's the most frustrating part for Browns fans. This isn't just about one game or one season. This is about a pattern of decision-making that prioritizes ego over winning. Stefanski would rather stick with his guy, his system, his way of doing things, even if it means wasting a season and potentially damaging young players' development. Let me paint you a picture of just how deep this stubbornness goes. According to sources close to the team, CN, and I'm not going to name names because these people still have jobs to protect, Stefanski has made it clear in private meetings that Dillon Gabriel is his quarterback, and that he believes in the system they've built together. The man would literally rather play Bailey Zappi, trade for Snoop Huntley, or bring back Joe Flacco before he admits that maybe, just maybe, he got this one wrong. And that's not hyperbole. That's based on actual conversations that have happened within the organization. But here's where this story takes an even more disturbing turn, and this is the part that's going to expose just how toxic this situation has become. You know what's been bothering me about this whole situation? The way certain media outlets in Cleveland have been covering this story. And I'm not talking about honest journalism or fair criticism, I'm talking about what looks like a coordinated effort to protect Kevin Stefanski's reputation. Take 92 The Fan, for example. Have you noticed how their coverage of this quarterback situation feels scripted, like unnaturally scripted? You've got one host who seems to hate everything Shedeur does, while another host has to play the role of defending him. It's like watching a WWE storyline instead of actual sports analysis. And here's what's really suspicious. The timing of their takes always seems to align perfectly with whatever narrative would make Stefanski look better. When Dillon Gabriel has a good practice, suddenly they're talking about how he's earning the starting job and how the coaching staff sees something special in him. When Shedeur makes a great throw in warm-ups, crickets, complete radio silence. But it gets worse. I've been tracking their coverage for weeks now, and there's a pattern that's impossible to ignore. Every time there's legitimate criticism of Stefanski's decision-making, within 24 hours, there's a segment about how fans don't understand the complexity of NFL quarterback play, or how coaches see things in practice that fans don't see. This isn't journalism, folks. This is damage control. This is a coordinated effort to shape public opinion and protect someone who clearly has connections within these media organizations. And here's the smoking gun that proves this is all orchestrated. Have you noticed how these same media personalities never ask the hard questions? They never press Stefanski on why a healthy Shedeur Sanders is sitting on the bench. They never challenge him on why his offensive system seems to fall apart the moment teams make adjustments. They never question why his innovative play calling looks so predictable to opposing defensive coordinators. Instead, they ask softball questions about building chemistry and trusting the process and all the other meaningless coach speak that allows Stefanski to avoid accountability. But here's the thing about trying to control a narrative in 2024. The truth has a way of coming out anyway. And the truth is that Cleveland fans aren't buying what these media outlets are selling. They're watching the games with their own eyes. They're seeing Dillon Gabriel struggle when the lights get bright. They're seeing Shedeur Sanders sitting on the bench, healthy and ready to play. And they're getting tired of being told that what they're seeing isn't real. The most telling part? Even the media members who are defending Stefanski don't sound convinced. You can hear it in their voices when they're making these arguments. They're going through the motions, hitting their talking points, but there's no passion behind it, no real belief. Because deep down, they know what everyone else knows, everyone too. This situation doesn't make sense unless there's something else going on behind the scenes. And that something else is about to be exposed, because what I'm about to tell you is going to change how you see this entire situation. Let's zoom out for a second and talk about what this really means for Cleveland, because this goes way beyond one coach or one quarterback controversy. This is about an organizational culture that's been broken for years, and Kevin Stefanski is just the latest symptom of a much deeper problem. The Browns are at a crossroads right now. They've got talent on this roster, more talent than they've had in decades. They've got fans who are desperate for success and have been loyal through some of the worst football in NFL history. They've got an ownership group that's invested billions of dollars trying to build something sustainable. But they also have a head coach who seems more interested in being right than being successful, and that's a problem that goes way beyond football. See, when you're in a leadership position, anyway, whether that's coaching a football team, running a company, or managing any kind of organization, your job isn't to prove that your way is the only way. Your job is to put your people in the best position to succeed. Your job is to adapt when circumstances change. Your job is to make decisions based on what's best for the organization, not what's best for your ego. Kevin Stefanski isn't doing that right now. He's putting his system ahead of his players. He's putting his ego ahead of his team's success. And he's putting his reputation ahead of what's best for the Cleveland Browns organization. But here's what makes this situation even more tragic. This isn't the first time we've seen this pattern in Cleveland. Think back to previous coaching regimes. Think about all the times the Browns have had talented players who were misused or underutilized because coaches were too stubborn to adapt their systems. The crazy part? This is exactly the kind of situation that can define a franchise for years to come. If Stefanski continues down this path, if he keeps prioritizing his gimmick offense over actual results, Cleveland could be looking at another decade of mediocrity. And the signs are all there. The offensive production has been declining. The play calling has become more predictable. The quarterback development has stagnated. The locker room chemistry is starting to fracture. But here's what makes this even more frustrating. It doesn't have to be this way. The Browns have the pieces. They have the talent. They have a quarterback on their roster who could potentially change everything. They have defensive players who are playing at an elite level. They have skill position players who can make plays when given the opportunity. But they also have a coach who's too stubborn to admit when he's wrong. A coach who would rather go down with his system than adapt to what his players do best. A coach who's more concerned with proving his critics wrong than with winning football games. And that stubbornness, that's what Mike Vrabel was really calling out when he made that gimmick coach comment. He wasn't just talking about play calling, he was talking about a mentality that values being clever over being effective, a mentality that prioritizes innovation over execution. But there's something else going on here that nobody's talking about, and this is the part that's going to blow your mind. What if I told you that this quarterback controversy isn't really about quarterbacks at all? What if I told you that this is actually about a power struggle within the Cleveland Browns organization that goes all the way to the top? Here's what I've learned from sources within the organization, and this is information that hasn't been reported anywhere else. There's a faction within the Browns front office that believes Kevin Stefanski has too much control over personnel decisions. They believe that his influence over draft picks, free agent signings, and roster construction has been detrimental to the team's long-term success. And the Shedeur Sanders situation has become a proxy war for this larger organizational conflict. Think about it. Shedeur wasn't Stefanski's pick. He wasn't the quarterback that Stefanski wanted, or the player that fits perfectly into Stefanski's system. Shedeur represents a different philosophy, a different approach to offense, a different way of thinking about quarterback play. If Stefanski plays Shedeur and Shedeur succeeds, it validates the front office's evaluation process. It proves that maybe the people making personnel decisions know what they're doing. It suggests that maybe Stefanski's input on player acquisition isn't as valuable as he thinks it is. But if Stefanski sticks with Dillon Gabriel, if he can somehow make his system work with his guy, then he maintains his influence over personnel decisions. He proves that his evaluation process is superior. He keeps his power within the organization. This isn't just about winning games anymore. This is about control. This is about who gets to make decisions about the future of the Cleveland Browns. This is about whether Kevin Stefanski is going to be a head coach who focuses on coaching or whether he's going to continue trying to be a de facto general manager who happens to coach on Sundays. And here's the really disturbing part. While this power struggle is playing out behind closed doors, the team is suffering on the field. Players are getting frustrated, fans are getting angry. The season is slipping away. But the people making these decisions seem more concerned with organizational politics than with winning football games. They're more focused on proving who was right about which players than on putting the best possible product on the field. And that's exactly the kind of dysfunction that Mike Vrabel was calling out with his gimmick coach comment. He wasn't just criticizing the play calling. He was exposing a fundamental problem with how the Cleveland Browns operate as an organization. But here's where this story takes its most shocking turn. And this is the revelation that's going to change everything. So here's what I think is really happening. And this is the part that's going to tie everything together and explain why this situation has become so toxic. Kevin Stefanski knows that his offensive system is flawed. He knows that his gimmick plays only work for so long. He knows that Dylan Gabriel isn't the long-term answer at quarterback. He knows that Shedeur Sanders has more talent and potential. But he also knows that admitting any of this would essentially be admitting that Mike Vrabel was right. And more importantly, it would be admitting that his entire approach to coaching, his entire philosophy about offense, his entire reputation as an innovative play caller, has been built on a foundation of smoke and mirrors. So instead of adapting, instead of evolving, instead of doing what's best for his team, he's doubling down. He's committing to a strategy that he knows isn't working because changing course would mean admitting failure. And in the process, he's wasting what could be a crucial development year for Shedeur Sanders, frustrating a fan base that's already been through enough, and potentially setting the Browns back for years to come. But here's the most tragic part of this entire situation, and this is something that should make every Cleveland fan absolutely furious. Stefanski isn't just hurting the team's chances this season. He's potentially damaging the long-term development of a quarterback who could be the franchise's future. Think about what's happening to Shedeur Sanders right now. He's a young player who came into the NFL with confidence, talent, and the belief that he could contribute immediately. Instead, he's watching from the sidelines while a less talented quarterback struggles with concepts that Shedeur has already mastered. What does that do to a young player's confidence? What does that do to his development? What does that do to his relationship with the coaching staff and the organization? And it's not just Shedeur who's being affected. Other players on the offense are watching this situation unfold. They're seeing that talent and performance don't necessarily translate to playing time. They're learning that politics and ego can be more important than production. That's a toxic message to send to a locker room. That's the kind of thing that can destroy team chemistry and create long-term problems that extend far beyond one season. The most frustrating part? This is all preventable. Stefanski could swallow his pride, make the quarterback change, adapt his offensive system to his players' strengths, and potentially save his job and his reputation. The talent is there. The opportunity is there. The support from the fan base would be there if he just showed that he was willing to put winning ahead of his ego. But instead, he's choosing to go down with the ship. He's choosing to stick with a system that isn't working and a quarterback who isn't the answer, all because admitting he was wrong would be too damaging to his pride. And that's exactly what Mike Vrabel saw coming. That's why he made that comment about gimmick plays. He knew that Stefanski's system was unsustainable. He knew that eventually the tricks would run out and the real football would begin. He knew that when that moment came, Stefanski wouldn't have the flexibility or the humility to adapt. The question now is, how long will Cleveland let this continue? How many more games will they watch their offense sputter and stall before they demand real change? How many more opportunities will they let slip away because their coach is too proud to admit he was wrong? Because here's the thing about the NFL. Opportunities don't come around very often. Windows for success are small and they close quickly. And right now, Cleveland's window is closing while Kevin Stefanski rearranges deck chairs on the Titanic. The Browns have a defense that's playing at an elite level. They have skill position players who can make plays when given the opportunity. They have a fan base that's desperate for success and willing to support a winner. They have an organization that's invested heavily in trying to build something sustainable. But they also have a coach who seems more interested in proving his critics wrong than in winning football games, and that's a recipe for disaster in a league where the margin for error is razor thin. So, what's going to happen next? Well, if history is any indication, this situation is going to get worse before it gets better. The losses are going to pile up. The fan frustration is going to intensify. The media criticism is going to become impossible to ignore. And eventually, the Cleveland Browns are going to have to make a decision. Do they stick with Kevin Stefanski and his gimmick offense, or do they make a change and try to salvage what's left of this season? The smart money says they'll wait too long to make that decision. They'll give Stefanski more time to prove that his system can work. They'll hope that somehow, some way, Dylan Gabriel will develop into the quarterback they need him to be. But while they're waiting and hoping, other teams are going to pass them by. Other organizations are going to take advantage of Cleveland's dysfunction. Other coaches are going to show what real leadership looks like. And Cleveland fans, they're going to be left wondering what could have been if their coach had just been willing to admit he was wrong and make the changes that everyone could see were necessary. The Browns deserve better, their fans deserve better, and most importantly, their players deserve better. The question is, will they get it before it's too late? Because if Mike Vrabel's gimmick coach comment taught us anything, it's that the rest of the NFL is watching. They're seeing what's happening in Cleveland. They're taking notes on how not to run an organization. And they're getting ready to take advantage of every mistake the Browns make along the way. What do you think? Is Kevin Stefanski really running a gimmick offense, or is Mike Vrabel just stirring up drama? Do you think the Browns should make a change at quarterback, or should they stick with their current plan? And what do you make of this media coverage situation? Is there really a coordinated effort to protect Stefanski, or am I reading too much into it? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to smash that like button if you want to see more content breaking down the real stories behind the headlines. Subscribe for more NFL analysis that goes deeper than the surface level takes you'll get anywhere else. And hit that notification bell so you never miss when I drop these deep dive investigations into what's really happening in the league.